Hello, welcome to The Angel or the Exorcist. My name is Paul Devlin. I'm a Buddhist priest and a Buddhist exorcist with over 25 years experience in the paranormal field, and this is...
I'm Samantha Jayne and I'm the psychic medium here on the show. And in this show we are going to be talking about parallel lives. So Paul, what was your definition of parallel lives or time slips?
It's almost like your doppelganger, so a carbon copy of yourself in another universe. That's the way I like to look at it. And we'll talk about experience. We both had experiences in sort of time slips, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. But I think it's a fascinating subject because it's not just bound to Earth. You know, it's the expanse of the universe. There's no limitation on it. And if you talk to people, they will often say, "I've had this experience." So it's a very, very powerful subject and a fascinating one as well. Yeah. That people don't necessarily always talk about.
Yeah, and it's one that even science is starting to prove.
Absolutely, and we like that, don't we?
Oh, we do. Not that I have any facts or figures, but we are seeing it. They are starting to accept that time isn't as we thought.
Yes, it's great, isn't it?
My experiences of parallel lives is I work with people on the karmic trail.
Okay.
With their experiences that are going on in those parallel lives, those parallel playouts. And one of the things that I describe it as is if you feel haunted by something, like if you had done something. So for example, if you turned down an engagement and you didn't marry Tony from Bognor, but yet you always question, always wonder how life would have been if you had. The reason for that is because in a parallel, you made a different choice and you did marry Tony from Bognor.
Yeah.
So a part of you is off playing out that life path. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
And that is where the healing needs to take place, because you're then fragmented, your energy field is fragmented across all these parallels, and we need to bring them back.
You know, when people do like past life regression, is that kind of your doppelganger living life before you? Yeah. Is that kind of another example of parallel universe, parallel lives?
Yeah, I believe so. It's like, so we can sort of come forwards and we can go sideways, backwards, go in any direction energetically to connect with those times. I think it's where deja vu comes from.
See, that's another fascinating subject, isn't it? Deja vu. And whether you believe or whether you don't, I think every person on the planet, everybody on the planet has experienced deja vu. Yeah. It is, again, another realm into the unknown, if you like. Yeah. Speaking of like the parallel universe type of thing, there's a place in Liverpool, UK, which a certain street that has the most registered time slips than any other place in the world. Wow. With I think about 30 or 40 people. It's added to every single year. People claiming that in this particular street in Liverpool, that they cross the road and enter a different time zone. Yeah. Which is, that kind of stuff is fascinating. You know, I always wondered what it would be like to go into a different time. You know, to climb into a TV screen in the 1930s. And these people are actually experiencing it. Yeah. Which is brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
I think it does go on, and I think it's getting more and more because we're just vibrationally, we're all just getting closer and closer together, all these parallels. I also think that is why people are now having so many experiences of it. And also the multidimensionals.
Absolutely, yes.
So it's all part of this subject.
My experience of time slips, or a time slip, most people say, you know, I crossed the road, this happened or that happened. Mine was in London, and I was working for a company in London just off the Bakerloo line, which is the underground train system in this country. So I got off at London Victoria, and as I did every single week, turned left up the escalators. And on this particular week, I turned left to go up the escalators. Now, for those of you who are in this country and have travelled in London, you will know if you go off at London Victoria, the escalators aren't very nice.
Right, okay.
On this particular day, they were beautiful, lovely ceramic, like tiles, brand new escalators, and it was empty. There was just one person. We were in the middle of rush hour. I thought, this is a bit strange. And all I remember is this guy going down the other side of the escalator and had a blue denim jean top on and a denim cap.
Right.
And I will never ever
Something
forget.
from the 80s.
Yeah, never forget
Yours.
this guy. I owe you nothing. Gave me this look, and it was a real sort of, you're dressed funny.
Right, okay.
And I came to the top of the escalators, and there was this big glass dome, and everything was silent. There was no sound to anything at all. And as I walked out, I thought, I am not in my time. I realised very quickly. And I just observed it. I thought, I need to get back, and I started to panic. I need to get back to where I was. So I need to find my way back to the platform. And the next stop up from London Victoria is Pimlico.
Right, okay.
So I knew if I got my theory was if I went up the train line, it would change, and get back on, come back, it would change the timeline.
Okay.
So I went up, got off, got back on, train was empty, we should be in rush hour by the way. Came back, and as I came back and we started to go on the train back to London Victoria, people randomly, I kid you not, just started to appear on the train.
Yeah.
Until the train was full. And it stopped at London Victoria. I got off, up the dirty escalators. I've never been so glad to see dirty escalators in my entire life. And I went to see my client, and he just said, "Are you okay?" I was like, just strong coffee, thanks, and I'll be fine.
You didn't go there.
I'm not going to tell you. And you have to be careful who you tell this stuff to.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we're amongst friends here, so I think it's really important to bring that. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah. Do you think that's Bermuda Triangle? Do you think that's a vortex between parallels?
I think so. Definitely. Yeah.
Don't hear much about that these days.
I'd love to go to the Bermuda Triangle.
Just the once, eh?
Just the You want to end up the other, right?
Yeah. See you on the other side.
Which one?
I'll have to come and find you. That would be just typical, wouldn't it? You go on a day trip to the Bermuda Triangle and they have to bring me in to find you. Throw you a rope.
Just a rope.
Rope and a crystal. I'll let you have a crystal as well.
You're so generous.
I am. Always generous to me.
So, have you experienced anything like what I experienced?
I have on a paranormal.
Oh right, cool.
Many moons ago, I actually was filming for a TV show. What do they call it? Is it a pilot version or whatever? You know, the pre-seller. And I was in a fort down in Portsmouth.
Oh yeah.
Like a military fort, although it wasn't military anymore, obviously. And I remember going down and walking through what would be, so if you would call it cellars or dungeons, my mind is dungeons, down corridors, and everyone else was just seeing it as it was, dark, stone walls, very cold, damp, eerie kind of feel, as these places always do. Whereas I was walking down bright lights with lights on torches, what do you call them, on the lights, on the flames on sticks, and heads on sticks as well.
Like human heads.
Human heads, yeah.
You must have freaked out. That would have freaked me out.
Well, I just kind of, you kind of look, don't want to look, don't want to look, and I'm losing the plot, and you're aware that no one else is seeing it.
Were you aware that there were other people behind you?
Oh yeah, because I was the medium on it.
Okay.
So I had the public group behind me.
Wow.
You know.
So how many seconds was it? I mean, was it a minute, 2 minutes?
I'm talking a good 5-minute walk.
Really?
Yeah, a good 5-minute walk.
And you're seeing heads on sticks?
Heads on sticks as we went down.
Wow.
Strange, really strange.
Because I guess if you're a medium in those situations, you have to describe what you're seeing.
Yeah.
So you were saying to these people, I'm seeing heads on sticks. And when you came out, how many people were behind you as well? Where's everybody gone?
I've got so many stories I could tell you about people running.
That crazy woman, she's telling me my head's on sticks.
When I worked as a paranormal medium, I got a reputation because I'm still a human being, and my human responses kick in.
Yeah.
And I used to say, I've got to get a t-shirt that says, when the medium screams, you know you're in trouble. Because I'm actually a screamer. I'm a screamer. And I've done it so many times. And I used to get booked because of it. Because if the medium's screaming, then the public got their value for money because they'd all gone, ah! And I used to have such an easy ride because I'd have a screaming moment. They'd all go back in the green room, as it used to be called back in the day. They'd refuse to leave.
So you got your money?
Woodchester Mansion was my famous one for
Woodchester
screaming my lungs out. But yeah.
That's a freaky place. It's a strange place, Woodchester Mansion.
Yeah.
I think the strange thing about parallel universes is we were talking earlier on about doppelgangers, which is another version of yourself.
Yeah.
How do you think how do you think that sort of splits from you to that other universe? Where do you think there's that time of separation?
What do you mean between us?
Yeah, as one person that then goes into two, because I've always found it quite fascinating on how that separation would occur and why it would occur.
Through emotion, I believe through emotion.
Right.
When you think, law of attraction and everything, we literally create through emotion and thought, but it's the emotion that powers up. And I think if your thoughts are always going there and there's enough emotion behind it, then you leave a part of you. Like people say, when someone dies, they've lost a part of themselves, they've left a part of themselves. I think it's all part and parcel of that. So we literally leave part of us, the broken part of us or whatever, or perhaps even the hopeful part in the engagement thing, for example, in that reality.
I see. So
to see if we should have made a different choice, how things would have been.
The other way that I like to think of it, if you hear of astral travelling, is kind of another. I remember doing a case of a possession where the person went astral travelling, and because they weren't protected properly, something came in as they were travelling, attached to them, came back to this plane, and they were possessed.
Yeah, and I've heard of that many times.
Yeah.
And I've seen that many times in client work.
It's quite scary, isn't it? Because people, I must experience that, but nobody goes, what about the protection?
Yeah, and this is why, that's part of why I thought it'd be great to do this show, is because I call it dabbling.
Yeah. The
dabblers. And I don't mean that rude, but it's just people who play with things with no real understanding of what they're doing.
It's almost the equivalent of that, I would say, is armchair paranormal investigators.
But you don't get them in a parallel life, do you?
They're on a sofa. Or beanbag.
Yeah, on a beanbag. But no, I think, going back to the mediumistic side of things, I also think that's how mediums work. As a medium, I'll sit here and say, I think it's because when people pass, when I call it when they leave the physical suit, because we are just energy beings, and they just don't kind of step into that parallel where you don't need the physical suit to belong. I always joke this is a gravity suit to hold us here on the earth, And I think that's how mediums work. I think mediums are able to connect to that parallel realm.
Yeah.
But I also think that's how psychics work, who have precognition, is they can tap into a future parallel.
Right, yeah. That's really interesting.
And that's how I think people like myself work.
With parallel universes, parallel lives, I've worked with people before who have lived more on the parallel side and then kind of jumped into this.
Yeah.
And they feel disconnected. You know, they don't feel they belong to this world.
Yeah.
They recognise things around them, and there's been documented evidence of people getting off planes of currency that nobody recognises, papers that nobody else recognises, and then just disappearing back to their own sort of time slip. But it's really sad because it's kind of all swept under the carpet, so we don't hear about it.
No.
But it does go on. It does happen.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking before we started filming that there isn't, in our opinion, we can't be. This isn't the only planet in the universe with intelligent life on it.
Yeah.
Struggle to call some humans intelligent. But there are there's a multi-universe of other planets.
Yeah.
You know, so
Absolutely.
if there's 12 planets in one system, on a parallel side, there's another 24, and a planet for planet for planet.
Yeah, and we're aliens. We are aliens to someone else.
Yeah.
You know, the people forget that as well.
This is a kind of thing that I put out there as well. A lot of people will say that with us being on this planet, that we evolved from this, and this. I personally think that's not true. Because if you think of all the animals on this planet, you know, they live in harmony with it. They have their own suits, their own fur, their own protection. We have to wear clothes. We have to sort of take all the time from the earth in order to survive, whereas a bird or, you know, any animal has that inbred ability to survive.
Yeah.
You know, we have to take things, we have to put clothes on us, we have to find food, go to the supermarket. You know, they already live in harmony with the earth.
We live in challenge.
We don't. So you could ask the question, do we come from another universe and we're kind of brought here to teach ourselves?
Yeah.
Or for somebody else to watch us and go, this is an experiment, what do you think about the human race then?
And then when we've had enough, we opt out and we go back to a parallel world.
There you go. Fantastic.
You know, this is how it rolls.
This is the reason why I have this channel. This is the reason why we have these chats, because it opens up possibilities for not just us, but for everybody. Everybody goes on their own personal journey, and that's the reason why this channel exists. So we can give that chance for people to explore their other self. Their other self.
Other worlds and other lives. Yeah. So as always, if you have liked this show, then it would be great for you to hit like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell so you know when our next show goes public.